Hi everyone, my name is Rachel and welcome. So in today's video, I'm going to be speaking about the New Deal movement that occurred in Grenada. But before I get into it, I'm just going to give my usual disclaimer. I know that my research is not at all exhaustive. I know that a lot of stories and sources have been removed, silenced, erased and lost in the archive. This is simply a compilation of information that I could find. So if there is anything that I've missed, or if you have any personal stories you'd like to add, feel free to comment in the comment section below or DM it to me and I will share it on this platform. The official name for the New Deal movement is actually the Joint Endeavour for Welfare, Education and Liberation. And it was created by Maurice Bishop, who was actually born in Aruba, though him and his family migrated to Grenada when he was 6 years old. Having been inspired by the writings of Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin, and being involved in anti-racist, anti-imperialist and anti-capitalist organising in both London and Grenada, he founded the New Deal movement. And it was actually a merger of the Joint Endeavour for Welfare, Education and Liberation, the Organisation for Revolutionary Liberation and Education, as well as the Movement for Assemblies of the People. And it was founded on the 11th of March 1973. Between 1973 and 1979, they were an opposition party to Eric Gary's dictatorship, which left Grenada with a high unemployment rate, a low literacy rate and a low standard of living.
Remember people coming down the road either cursing or crying or, in dismay from the kinds of lack of social services that there were in the country. People were taking out their teeth instead of having it repaired because to fill a tooth was so expensive. I remember the situation facing people from medical care, where people would go and sit for hours and hours and hours.
And I'm just going to read an excerpt from their manifesto, which is linked in the description box below. I really do urge people to read it. It was principally written by Franklin Harvey, who was really inspired by the writings of C.L.R. James. It reads, "The New Deal movement as an organisation only started in March of this year, yet at Sea Moon on the 6th of May 1973, we brought together 10,000 people in one place, effectively contributed to shutting down the island for 1 week later the same month, and closed down the airport for 3 days in April, thus letting the outside world know of the scandals of Gary's police states and misgovernment. Indeed, we have been at the forefront of organising all the people's effective protests and opposition to this corrupt, inhuman and unjust regime. On top of this, we have been producing a political newspaper, selling 3 times more copies than any other paper, all of them running for years and years in the island. All of this speaks for itself. We feel that leaders are not necessarily born or come from the East, but are made. We feel that no small group of persons, regardless of how intelligent or educated or wealthy they are, have the right to sit down together in a small room and proclaim themselves the new messiahs. Rather, the leadership must come from the people, and it must be accepted by the people, not because of the way they look, dress or speak, but because of their proven commitment, dedication and hard work in the interests of the people."
There are different things we want to form. Normalize the people, teach, learn for myself, youth, the old, the young, in education, all sorts of things that could be helped to build the revolution.
And they didn't operate without enemies. On the 18th of November 1973, Bishop, as well as other members of the New Deal movement and the motorcade, were captured, arrested and were beaten under orders from the Prime Minister's government. And this event, which resulted in a lot of physical damage, as you can imagine, like that of a broken jaw for Maurice Bishop, has been historicised in Grenada as Bloody Sunday. Bloody Monday occurred a few months later when leaders of the New Deal movement were attacked with bottles and stones by Gary's supporters. It was on Bloody Monday that Maurice Bishop's dad, Rupert Bishop, was killed while leading some children and women away from the danger of the supporters. And I mentioned Bloody Monday as well as Bloody Sunday to contextualise just how much resistance the New Deal movement faced in their not only establishment but also in their policies throughout the 70s.
The plan was that Gary was going to leave the country on Monday midday, and the instructions that were being left behind was that we should be liquidated. That left us in a position where we had to choose whether to sit and wait for liquidation or whether we should move on the offensive. What we did was that from our positions in hiding, the decision was taken that the next morning we should, at this point in the name of the people, move to seize power from the hands of dictatorship.
It was in 1979, on the 13th of March specifically, while Eric Gairy was on a visit to the United States, that the New Deal Movement revolution occurred. Maurice Bishop then declared the New Deal Movement as the People's Revolutionary Government, suspending the previous constitution and ruling Grenada by decree. The Grenadian Revolution had begun, establishing the People's Revolutionary Army, which was the military, and continuing a range of schemes that they created, such as the New Deal newspaper. As Bishop had been refused financial aid as well as a meeting with the US President Ronald Reagan, it was Cuba who offered to build Grenada up from the ruins of Gairy's government, who believed that he was God-sent and that any issues people had with his policies should be taken up with God. And throughout the tenure of the People's Revolutionary Government, Grenada worked extremely closely with Cuba. As well as Cuba, the People's Revolutionary Government worked extremely closely with SWAPO, which was the Southwest African People's Organization in Namibia, as well as the FMLN, which was the Farabundo Marti National Liberation Front in El Salvador. It's definitely important to remember that the New Deal movement and the subsequent People's Revolutionary Government didn't belong to Maurice Bishop. It belonged to the people, and it was sustained by a range of leaders, including Jacqueline Creft, who was the Minister for Education, as well as those individuals who didn't get involved in terms of political leadership, but actively engaged with and participated in the projects and schemes. The New Deal movement was dissolved on the 29th of October 1983, following the US invasion of Grenada and the toppling of the People's Revolutionary Government. The assassination of Maurice Bishop, as well as other New Deal movement leaders, such as Jacqueline Creft that I mentioned earlier, Evelyn Maitland and Unison Whiteman, as well as some civilians, occurred 10 days prior, so on the 19th of October 1983. The People's Revolutionary Government was followed by a military government under New Deal movement member Hudson Austin, and it was this military government that was toppled by the United States. The horrific conditions their assassination occurred under, I think, really contextualizes just how threatened the United States was by the New Deal movement and the socialist revolution that was occurring in Grenada, especially when considering it in the context of the Cold War and the Red Scare and the Communist Scare throughout the latter half of the 20th century. Despite attempts at US suppression, I think the effects and legacy of the New Deal movement continues to live in the minds and memories of Grenadians, of those who benefited materially and whose living conditions greatly improved. The legacy of the only socialist revolution in an English-speaking country continues to live on, and people definitely remember what they did. While researching, I came across this documentary, which will be linked in the description. You've seen clips throughout this video, and I really do urge people to watch it. I think it's just like it's just so nice, you know? But yeah, I really do urge people to watch it if they can, just so that you can learn more about their actual policies and what they covered and the resistance that they faced. There's a bit where Maurice Bishop reads out some excerpts from newspapers that were bashing the New Deal movement. I think it's really interesting. So yeah, that will be left down below, and that is it for this video. I hope you've learned something if you didn't know anything, and if you knew a little bit, I hope you know a little bit more, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.